Here's something that will change how you see your cat forever. That bite, the one that came out of nowhere, the one that made you pull your hand back and just stare at them, wasn't random. It wasn't your cat being mean. And it almost certainly wasn't a betrayal. It was a sentence. The last sentence in a whole paragraph. Your cat had already been speaking. You just didn't catch the earlier lines. And once you understand that, once you actually learn to read what your cat has been trying to say this whole time, everything shifts. The confusion disappears. The frustration fades. And suddenly this animal you live with starts to make complete, beautiful sense. So let's talk about it. All of it. Why cats bite, what they're actually communicating, and, maybe most importantly, what one very specific kind of bite might mean that will genuinely surprise you. Let's start with the thing almost nobody talks about. The conversation that happens before the bite. We tend to treat a cat bite like a switch getting flipped. One moment everything's fine, the next, teeth. But that's almost never what's actually happening. What you're experiencing is sudden, is usually the final signal in a long sequence of quieter ones that came before it. Cats are not big communicators in the way dogs are. A dog who's uncomfortable will usually make sure you know about it. They'll move away. They'll whine. They'll give you that big, obvious whale eye. Cats do something different. They whisper, a very slight flick of the tail tip, a single ear rotating just a few degrees backward, a tiny ripple of skin moving across the back, the body going ever so slightly more rigid under your hand. These are full sentences in cat language, clear, deliberate signals that something has shifted. But because they're so subtle, most of us completely miss them. We see a calm cat. We keep going. And eventually, the cat runs out of quieter options. That's the moment the bite happens. It's not impulsive. It's not cruel. It's the equivalent of someone finally raising their voice after 3 times of saying, "Excuse me," and being ignored. Once you genuinely internalize that, you stop taking it personally, and you start catching it earlier instead. The single most common reason cats bite during calm moments is something called overstimulation. And it trips people up constantly because the setup looks so peaceful. Your cat climbed into your lap. They're warm. They might be purring. You're stroking their back and they're leaning into it. And then snap. Out of nowhere. Here's what actually happened. Your cat hit their threshold. And this is the key concept that changes everything about how you approach petting. We tend to think of affection as something that compounds. The longer it goes on, the better it feels. That's very much a human idea. For a lot of cats, it doesn't work that way at all. Their nervous system has a ceiling. Below that ceiling, touch feels good. The moment it tips over, and it can tip over fast, everything reverses. What felt pleasant 10 seconds ago now feels like too much. And the bite is basically their body's emergency brake. The hard part is that purring doesn't tell you where that ceiling is. Neither does the fact that they came to you in the first place. What tells you is the small stuff. The tail starting to move, the skin twitching, the ears drifting back, the very subtle stiffness that creeps into their body right before things shift. If your cat does this, the answer isn't to push through it or to avoid petting altogether. It's to stop earlier than you think you need to. Honestly, ending a petting session 1 minute before your cat is done builds more trust than stretching it 30 seconds too long, because your cat learns that being close to you is always safe. It never tips over into that overwhelming place. Pay attention to where your individual cat's ceiling sits. Once you find it, you'll wonder how you ever missed it. Real quick, If this is already making you look at your cat differently, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more cat owners who need to hear exactly this stuff. And if you want to keep understanding your cat on a deeper level, subscribe to Whisker Diary. We go deep on feline behavior every single week. Okay, back to it. Now let's talk about a completely different kind of bite. One that has nothing to do with emotions and everything to do with instinct. If your cat grabs your hand, kicks it with their back feet, and bites with real enthusiasm, especially during play, there's a good chance your hand got categorized a long time ago as something that moves like prey. What makes this worse is the typical human response, yanking your hand away fast. I completely understand the reflex, but from your cat's perspective, that's a small creature trying to escape, which makes the whole interaction more exciting, not less. You've just upgraded the game. The better response is to go completely still, make your hand the most boring thing in the room, and going forward, redirect all that hunting energy onto actual toys, wands, kickers, anything that puts distance between their teeth and your skin. Play is not the problem. Hands being part of play is. This next one is the most important thing in this entire video, so stay with me. Sometimes a cat bites not because of overstimulation, not because of play, but because something hurts, and you just touched it. This is the bite that people often don't understand until later. Maybe your cat never minded being lifted before, and suddenly they react when your hand goes under their belly. Maybe they flinch when you scratch near their lower back. Maybe they're still eating, still sleeping in their usual spot, still acting mostly normal. So you put it down to mood, to attitude, to she's just being difficult lately. And then you find out they had dental disease, or arthritis, or a sore hip they'd been quietly guarding for weeks. Cats are extraordinary at concealing pain. That's not stubbornness. It's deeply wired survival behavior. A cat in the wild who shows weakness becomes a target, so they hide it. They hide it well, and often the only moment it surfaces is when someone touches the exact wrong place at the exact wrong moment. When that happens, the reaction is fast and sharp, because they're trying to make the pain stop right now. It's not aggression, it's desperation. This is why a new biting pattern matters so much. If your cat has started reacting during handling in ways they never did before, especially if it's consistent and tied to a specific body part or position, please don't reduce that to personality. Let it raise a question. A vet visit after a sudden change in biting behavior has caught real medical issues early for a lot of cat owners. The bite was the only symptom they had. Hearing it as a clue rather than a complaint can genuinely make a difference. Fear bites are the ones that get labeled random most often, but they're almost never random. You just didn't see what your cat saw. Someone leans over them too quickly. There's a loud sound from another room. You reach toward them in a way that, from their angle, looked like a lunge. Or your cat carries a history, a shelter stay, a rough start, experiences you weren't there for, and something in the present moment triggered something from before. Their body responded before their brain caught up. That's the bite. What matters here is understanding what not to do. And the most common mistake people make is trying to comfort a scared cat on human terms, picking them up, pulling them close, following them to soothe them. When a cat feels cornered or trapped, what you experience as comfort registers for them as one more thing they can't escape from. Space is the kindest thing you can offer. Lower yourself physically. Give them a clear route to leave. Let them go somewhere dark and quiet without following. A cat who feels genuinely safe will come back to you on their own timeline. And that timeline is usually much shorter than you'd expect. A cat who had to fight for their exit will take a lot longer to settle. Fear doesn't mean your cat doesn't love you. It means their nervous system got there first. And now, the bite that makes people genuinely emotional once they finally understand it. You're relaxed together. Your cat is settled against you, or kneading slowly, or purring that low, steady purr that you can feel more than hear. And then they give you a small bite, not hard, not sharp, sometimes followed by a lick. Sometimes they just hold your hand gently in their mouth for a moment before letting go and going back to purring like nothing happened. It doesn't feel hostile. It feels strange, almost tender. Here's what's likely happening. For some cats, that soft bite appears to be part of how they express closeness. Cats who are bonded to each other will groom one another, and that grooming sometimes includes gentle nibbling. When your cat does this to you in a fully relaxed state, with loose body language and no tension anywhere, it may be the closest thing they have to saying, "I'm comfortable enough with you to do this." Now, context is everything. If the tail is moving fast, if the body is stiff, if the ears are pinned, that's a different message. But when your cat looks completely at ease, when everything about them reads as settled and connected, that little nibble might not be a warning at all. It might be an invitation, a strange, toothy, very cat-like expression of trust. A lot of people, when they finally understand this, realize they'd been pulling away from one of the most genuine gestures their cat knew how to make. So here's where this all lands. Your cat is not a mystery. They're not random. They're not broken or aggressive or out to get you. They are communicating constantly, specifically, and with real intention, in a language most of us were simply never taught. When a bite happens during petting, go back and ask what the body was already saying before it. When it happens during play, ask whether your hands became the game. When it's new and tied to a specific spot, ask what might be hiding beneath it physically. When everything about your cat looks alarmed, create safety before you try anything else. And when it's soft and slow and comes wrapped in purring, pause before you assume the worst. Cats form real, deep attachments. Research has confirmed what a lot of us already feel, that the bond between a cat and their person is genuine, and it goes both ways. That bond is exactly why their bites can carry so much meaning, and why it stings so much when we misread them. The shift isn't complicated. It's just a change in the question you ask. Instead of, "Why did you do that to me?" try, "What were you trying to say before it got here?" That question, asked often enough, changes the whole relationship. If this helped you understand your cat even a little better, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Tell me about your cat's specific biting pattern, when it happens, what it looks like, what you figured out. I read everything, and if you haven't subscribed yet, Whisker Diary is the place for exactly this kind of deep dive into how cats actually think and feel. New videos every week. I'll see you in the next one.